is because my agent, she was going through, we saw a lot of violence on the trains with the girls. We did. We saw a lot of that. So I wanted to bring that up to you as well, because I know that it can be dangerous for us as the LGBTQ community, or even sometimes when we look realistic or we're just a fetish, these things can be very dangerous for us. Now, I'm going to talk about your family for just a minute. Do you talk to your family? Are you close to your mom, your dad, or your?
Well, my parents are deceased, so I have my sister and a niece, and other family members that I, stay in touch with, and they, support me in my endeavors and occasionally come out to some of my events and stuff. So it's a very, a tight-knit group, and of course, this year was the weird year where we don't get to see each other as much, but we do what we can.
Okay. Now, I want to talk about the New York Times. First of all, how did they come to you about that? Or did you have an agent or something that the New York Times was interested in your story? How did that come about?
Well, the New York Times story is in regards to Drag Queen Story Hour, and Drag Queen Story Hour was just taking off in New York, and it was kind of like the right place, right time kind of situation. I believe that they were going to cover that event regardless of who was going to be doing it, and it just happened to be me. It also just happened to be my first ever Drag Queen Story Hour reading. So it was, it was my first day on the job. I'm already nervous. I have 75 pre-K and kindergarten kids coming from the school that's close to the library. And then they say, oh, and the New York Times is here to interview you. So all the pressure in the world, you know what I'm saying? But I mean, I was lucky enough that interview also reminds me when I started work, and I was also lucky enough to have had the gig and them to interview, because if it was somebody else, they would have just interviewed them as well too. They don't necessarily, it happens, but not as much where they seek us out individually. It's just that this is when the reporter can make it. When are you having another story time? Okay, this is when a reporter can make it. And so whoever happens to be that particular person, then they wind up getting the luck of being interviewed.
Well, I must say, that's amazing. That is the mere fact that the New York Times showed up there, whether it was for you or anybody else, meant that this storybook or story hour meant something. It resonated with somebody. It got some bigwig's attention.
Right.
So, like you said, you were nervous your first time. What did the children think when they saw you? I mean, Harmonica, Sunbeam is not the total toned down. Sometimes, children think of us as clowns. So, and I know we don't think of that as ourselves. We think, and what did you think the children thought of you? Did they like you?
Oh, they were very engaged, and one thing about, the children, their emotions are real, when they are excited about something, they show their excitement. Sometimes, our audiences, our adult audiences and gay spaces can be a little jaded, and not give you the love and the energy as a performer that we need and deserve. So working with the kids, you always get that wow, and I always say that, if I can get to them through the stories, or get to them through costumes and jewelry and all of that stuff, there's different people appeal to different things, and you want to be able to have them engaged in one way or another, even if there was a kid in the audience that didn't hear a word I said, but was just fascinated by my jewelry, and it was just like that, that kid could be like, wow, when I grow up, I want to make jewelry, or something like, there's certain things that appeal to different people, and you just never know how you're going to touch people, when talking to a large group of people, and especially kids. So they were they were very well behaved and very excited to see me.
Wonderful. Now, I want to ask you this because I'm sure some parents will be thinking exactly what I'm thinking. I mean, I'm going to be honest. I'm guided by what my agent wrote here. I would have probably have said some of this stuff anyway and asked, but I think some of her points are very relevant, and we
Mhm.
need to talk about it. Were any of the children afraid of you?
There have been kids who didn't want to take a picture with me. You know what I mean? They made like or like because sometimes and that's not necessarily being afraid. It's probably afraid of being left alone. Like, so if you were to take a child and say, okay, go stand next to her and take the picture, but they really want to just be closer to their parent, you know? So
Mhm.
they just didn't want to take the picture. But there have been kids that have cried, you know, and stuff, but not necessarily afraid, like uh, feared, like you were in fear of me, you know?
Now, just a couple of more questions around this. Now, you you obviously like this storybook hour.
Mhm.
It's gotten you sort of the attention that you want. It's giving you a little bit of the status that you want, and it's sort of made you realize that children are the key to understanding us with diversity, understanding, and you start maybe the something they would be able to relate to because a lot of times, like I said, is they think we look like clowns, whether we're either a scary clown or a friendly looking clown. Now, I know that I can tell when I've listened to one or two of your stories, and I can tell that you have a passion inside you that's real. So, this is what resonates with children, and it also resonates family, um, with some families. Now, of course, there's going to be that opposition of those families that are the Christian ones, like you said, that really doesn't, they just came to see what was who their children, what this drag queen is all about, and what their children are actually being exposed to. Now, have you ever had any real complaints from families or parents about you?
Well, we've had some protesters at some events, you know, and to be expected. Um, we haven't had a situation where they have actually entered the building. They've just, showed up outside to say that they don't agree with the program, and that's fine. They have a right to say what they don't
Mhm.
agree with, you know. But you keep in mind that all the kids that attend any drag queen story hour are accompanied by a caretaker or a parent or someone who wants them there. You know, it's a lot different. I am not in the middle of a dark alley saying, hey, kids, come here. I want to read you a story. I am in an open public setting, you know,
Mhm.
and these kids are with their parents and we're just reading books. So it's not like a secret situation where you can't come in, oh, you can come in, oh, not you, you know, it's everyone is welcome as long as you're there with the right intentions, you know.
Okay. Now, this will be the last one on this because
Mhm.
I really I'm enjoying this part because I think that this is what my agent really wanted me to focus on. She was like, well, I want you to do this and I want you to do this and ask her this. So I'm going to ask you this. Are you happy with the results that you're seeing from all of the storybook hours that you're getting? Are you having an impact? Are you making a difference? Is it working? Is the storybook hour working?
I believe it is working, and I know that it's working because we started out this started in San Francisco, and it came to New York, and now it is international. We have chapters in Germany and Japan and Mexico and Sweden, you know, and all across the U.S. So there is a need.